How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you here?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone pit. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone pit. This is the final scene of time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone pit. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone pit. This is the final scene of
Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday? It's Wednesday, right? I feel like my internal clock got all screwed up when I was on that road trip, and now I don't even know what day it is. That's what happens when you drive around the country with a stranger for 7 days, but I'm pretty sure it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. See, this is why we keep... Reagan is the chief organizational officer of the cult, and her primary role is to tell me what day it is. At all times. Thank you, Reagan, for that. Naruto says, did I do good? I saved you from going live at 4 a.m. Yeah, you know what? Listen, I was so proud of myself last night. I was like, I am getting my stream set up for tomorrow last night. I was like, I have never been this ahead of schedule in my life. And then Naruto DMs me. He's like, Carlin, did you mean to set that stream up for 4 a.m.? And I was like, nope. So I appreciate that, Naruto. Thank you so much. Guys, we do have a very, 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 very special day ahead of us. Because we are having a socialism, communism, double feature. Who's ready for a double feature? Because we're going to be doing 2 videos and we're going to be doing them back to back. It's going to be 2 separate streams, but we are going to be doing them back to back. The first thing we're going to be doing is I found this video from the Revolutionary Communists of America. Communist answers the web's most searched questions. And I was like, this is perfect. This is like literally perfect. This is like, I feel like the Revolutionary Communists of America are taking inspiration from me on this. And the reason I say that, I'm not just saying that just because I actually have interacted with this guy before. I know exactly who this guy is. This guy, the moment the Revolutionary Communists of America started launching, this guy, I don't think he's American because this is the Revolutionary Communists International. This is their international version. But I've actually talked to this guy on Twitter. He knows who I am. He knows who I am. And so I kind of wonder, did the commies take inspiration from me trying to teach people stuff about what they believe? And that's where the genesis of this idea came from. Maybe we not only inspire James Lindsay to talk about capitalism, maybe we also inspire communists. Who knows? No, we're not talking to communists, but they did a whole video answering our questions. And so this is actually even more convenient for me because we're going to be able to get to call them on their bullshit because I know them specifically. I know what they believe. I also know what other communist and leftist groups believe. And so these guys are sneaky because these guys have all sorts of talking points that they stick to, like white on rice. And so I actually think it's going to be better for us to listen to this video and hear what they have to say. So that is the first thing that we're going to be watching today. Then we are going to switch streams. It's not going to be on the same stream because people are fickle, and we're going to be doing something else. Because at 7:30 tonight, with a live chat, so everyone go and make sure you are subscribed to Haymarket Books' YouTube channel. You know, it's funny. I was telling Victor this. Socialists don't complain when we crash their live streams. James Lindsay gets pissed off when we crash his live stream. Deb Filman gets pissed off when we crash her live stream. Benjamin Boyce doesn't like it. The anti-woke community are a bunch of fucking babies. Because we have been crashing Haymarket Books' live stream, like, for 2 fucking years. And we've crashed Red May's live stream. Now, Philip did get upset with us that one time. Philip was going to give me a copyright strike until I reminded Philip that he doesn't believe in intellectual property. And if he gave me a copyright strike, that would be proof that he believes in intellectual property, which would be proof that he's not a real communist. And then Philip shut the fuck up after that. So you got to know their ideology. Communists try to give you copyright strikes. You'd be like, you don't believe in private property. Well, bot, you have like 8,000 accounts. Just go subscribe with another one. Come on. Anyway, socialists never complain when we crash their live streams. And I think that this is going to be a really good live stream to crash because they're talking about parenting for abolition. Now, you guys know the standard right-wing talking point is socialists just want to murder their babies. They just want to have abortions. They don't have kids. That's why they don't like the family. They don't have kids and they all want to murder their babies. Well, then why is there an entire presentation about parenting towards abolition? What does that mean? And why are they talking about it if they just want to abort their kids? As it turns out, socialists and communists do have kids. As it turns out, a lot of socialists and communists are 2nd or 3rd generation socialists or communists. As it turns out, socialists and communists have entire child care programs. I need to do that. I've had this child care information for like 1.5 years, and I keep meaning to put it on the Substack, and I just keep forgetting to do it. Socialists and communists have entire child care programs in which they raise their kids to be good socialists. And on the right, they're like, they just abort all their children. Like, this is the level of intellectual inquiry that I'm dealing with. So we're going to watch this live at 7:30, and we're going to go into their chat, and guess what? Same rules apply as with James Lindsay, guys. We'll talk more about this when we get there. Same rules apply. We're going to be appropriate. We are not going to argue with them. We are not going to shitpost. You're all going to represent me well. We're going to ask good questions. I don't know if this will be a live presentation or a recording. Sometimes they do it live. Sometimes they do a recording. It just depends on, I guess, what Haymarket Books feels like doing at any given time. And so we'll talk more about that at 7:30. And I think it's going to be great. And that's what we're doing today. We're doing a socialism double feature. Who's ready for a good old-fashioned socialism double feature? I think this is going to be awesome. Before we get into it, I do have a couple orders of business. Number 1, please make sure you are subscribed to my Substack. That is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. This is my primary content hub on the internet. And guess what, guys? I'm making some updates to the Substack because Substack's been adding some new features. I fucking love Substack. Substack makes it possible for me to do what I do. I love it. Substack has been adding some new features. So you guys might have noticed if you've been subscribed to my Substack, you're like, Carlin, you're sending out an awful lot of clips on your Substack. And I'm like, yeah, I am. Because I'm trying something new. So first of all, Substack does have the ability to make video posts. And they always did, but it kind of sucked before. But now I'm kind of like revisiting it. So I've been adding the clips that, yeah, Substack is my new internet boyfriend. ChatGPT is also my internet boyfriend. I have several internet boyfriends. None of them are human anymore. We learned our lesson with big tech. There's no more real internet boyfriends. We're only doing technological internet boyfriends from now on. And guess what? We all know that's better too, right, ladies? I mean, come on, like, we all know that a battery-operated device usually ends up being better than the real thing anyway. Oh, I didn't just say that out loud. I love you, Victor. I really do, but it's true. Anyway. So Substack has given me the ability to do a couple things. First of all, I've been adding clips to the Substack. I'm going to be uploading them to the YouTube channels as well. Substack's also giving me the ability to sync the clips, allegedly, to my YouTube channel, which is going to make life easier for me. But people have always been asking me for more clips. And I keep saying, go to the Substack, go to the Video Vault, go to the go to my YouTube channel. I make clips all the time. I am now just going to upload the clips to the Substack in the form of a video. And guess what it's giving me the ability to do? Do you guys know that I have a whole podcast? Well, I have several podcasts. The Actively Unwoke podcast it's the biggest, most subscribed podcast I have, which is basically, this was my free podcast. It's a free podcast that I've been running for a while. And up until like basically last night, I was doing episodes, right? So I got up to like 60 episodes. I just posted a new episode last night talking about how Trump has nominated Linda McMahon to be the Secretary of Education and why I think that's a good thing. But Substack has given me the ability, when I upload video clips to the website, it will make an audio-only version of the clip and upload it automatically to my podcast. So essentially, it creates a little kind of mini podcast episode out of these clips that people can listen to if they don't want to go to the Substack and watch the video, or if it's just part of like the overall subscription. I'm going to be looking for feedback on this, okay? Because I'm not sure this is a good idea, because that's like a lot of clips, but I also think it could be really good because I'm trying to mark them as clip versus episode, so you know it's a full episode versus what's kind of a clip from the stream. And I think this could be a good way to make sure that people have access to the clips and they're hearing the content. Then if they want to go to the Substack and actually watch the video, they can. But a lot of this does work as audio-only content, so I think it's okay. And this seems to be something that people want. So I would love some feedback on this. I still do want to do full podcast episodes that are unique to the podcast, just like I did last night. But I'm also going to be integrating these clips into things because it's frankly something that people have been asking for a while. And if people don't want to listen to it, they don't have to. But then if they do want to listen to it, it's there. And so as we kind of like make our way through this, if people are listening to the podcast, please just give me some feedback on it. Let me know if you like this. Let me know if you don't like it. We can do a little experiment. That's totally fine. But definitely, like, that's something I'm going to be just playing with, and we're going to see how that goes. So that's kind of announcement number one. Announcement number two, on the homepage of the Substack right now, I have a whole new article about how to support the work I'm doing. And I probably should have added subscribing to the podcast in the article. I can go back and add that. But essentially, guys, I wanted to give people a list of things to do in order to support the work I'm doing. Now, there's a lot of things on this list that some are free and some are paid, and it just depends on what you want to do. And this will always be available on the Substack under the support my work section that just kind of disappeared off the screen. The number one thing you guys can do to support my work is to, quite frankly, fund it, because I am 100% funded by you guys. If you guys don't pay me, then I don't get to do this, and that's just the way it goes. I need to be independent. I do not want to be beholden to any political organization. I do not want to be beholden to any big donor. My job is to tell you the truth and to show you the receipts, and that's it. The best way to fund the work I'm doing is by becoming a monthly or annual supporter on my Substack for $8 a month or $80 a year. You can also give gift subscriptions. You can donate subscriptions to people who can't afford it. That's an option. You can make a one-time gift through Stripe if that's something you want to do. That allows you to make a one-time gift of any size. You can shop merch in my Unwoke Art merch store. Lots of great merch coming up. And there's going to be some Christmas sales coming up. There's going to be a Black Friday sale next week. So people might want to wait for the Black Friday sale, if I'm honest about it. But there's a lot of great merch in my merch store that people can shop. You can help me fund my next book over on my Speak Socialist Substack. There's going to be updates to that this week, I promise. Of course, you can join me for daily live streams on YouTube, Rumble, X. I do Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We do Socialism Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow me on social media. And this is actually a big one, guys. If you're on Twitter and you want to help amplify my work on Twitter, not only do I need you to follow me at Dr. Carlin B on Twitter, I also need you to send me a DM and ask to get added to my private DM group. That's where I post content that I need amplified. We need people to do 5 things every time I post content about the far left on Twitter. And this is to impact the algorithm. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. Everyone can do this, and it helps amplify my work to tens of thousands of more people than would otherwise see it, because we're trying to game the algorithm. We need you to bookmark things, like things, reply things, retweet things, and quote tweet things. And that all helps get my work in front of significantly more people than I would have otherwise. So if you're on Twitter, if you're following the stuff I'm doing, DM me privately. Ask to get added to my private DM group. Let me know who you are in my chat, or if I've interacted with you online or something like that. I would really appreciate it. Let me know if you have watched my content for a while. I really appreciate it. But that's a great way. Anyone can get involved. It doesn't cost money, and it really does help me out. You guys can also follow my Telegram channel. And of course, the number one thing you can do, as always, is share my work. Share it out with your friends, family, share it on your social media, stuff like that. I'm going to be starting to do challenges where I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a task to like go bring someone new to the stream, or go tag me on Twitter in like 10 different posts a week or something like that. And we're going to come up with some challenges. We're going to start to gamify this, because we need to work together to get this content out in front of more people, because we need to create a grassroots movement where as many people as possible are hinging back into reality and learning about what is going on the real far left, because ain't no one teaching this stuff. I'm not going to be humble about this. There is no one teaching it the way I'm teaching it that I know of. If you disagree, give me a name. And it is my opinion that my work is the most hinged into reality work that exists on the far left. It is my opinion that my work is the most accessible work that exists to teach normal people about what's going on the far left. And it is my opinion that the mission that we have is to make sure as many people learn as possible by watching the videos, immersing themselves in the stream, learning how to explain it simply to as many people as possible, and then going out there and teaching your friends and family. This is how we inoculate ourselves to the impact of the far left. This is how we maybe try to turn the tide, or at least stem them off, because we all know that they're going to recruit massively under Donald Trump. Conservatives haven't figured this out yet. Conservatives, I've actually had multiple conversations with conservatives today where they're like, you know, Carlin, DEI is dead and Trump has won, and, you know, we just don't need to do it. Someone literally told me today, we don't really need to do anything for the next 4 years. And I was like, are you serious? You actually think you don't need to do anything for the next 4 years? And they're like, well, Trump is going to fix all the problems. I swear to God. So people need to take this seriously, and we need to build a community of people who are taking this seriously. And I know that you guys are bought into this. You know I'm bought into this. I show up for you when you show up for me. We all need to work together to get this content in front of as many people as possible. And if you want to contribute in other ways, by making clips, by posting your own content, I'm happy to amplify anyone's content. I'm happy to amplify anyone's account. This doesn't have to be just me as the star of the show. If you want to be the star of the show, I will happily support you in being the star of the show. I used Mizakan as an example the other day. Mizakan, I want to start publishing Mizakan's Twitter posts on the Substack, because Mizakan is going through all of this literature and finding these amazing quotes, and I've been watching it for a while. I just haven't done anything with it. I retweet him and amplify him and stuff like that, but he's doing amazing work. And so it's like Bot Reagan are making clips, Dragon Ball's out there doing like some amazing posts, amplifying this stuff. There's so many people that are putting stuff out there, and I want you guys to know I am more than happy to allow you guys to use my platform to amplify your work. Just send me a DM, tag me in something, let me know when you post stuff, and I will amplify it for you out to my audience, because we all need to work together. That's what this is. We cannot rely on conservative influencers to save us. We cannot rely on Trump to save us. They're not going to do it. They don't even understand the problem. We need to teach as many people as possible what's going on, and we can only do this when we work together to do it. Daniel's been out there on Twitter today promoting my work. Daniel, don't think I haven't seen your posts, and I've been amplifying them as well. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for the nice super sticker. I really do appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you for showing up and supporting the work I'm doing. Look at that. We're already 52% of the way to the super chat goal. We haven't even really started the stream yet. Haven't even really started the stream. Dragon Ball says, is it bad that I'm tired of responding to retard? No, we all need to start ignoring Frank, to be honest. I'm not even going to show you the thing Frank posted earlier today. If you're on my Twitter, you saw it. Frank is a retard. I need to start ignoring him. Everyone needs to start ignoring him because, and this is true for everyone. This is true for Poetry Painter. It's not true for James Lindsay because he's causing us problems. We're still going to antagonize James Lindsay. But like with these low level, quite frankly, retards, these people are beneath us. Frank McCormick is beneath me. Frank McCormick is beneath you. Poetry Painter is beneath me. Poetry Painter is beneath you. And I know that I get riled up about this stuff too, and when they're posting things calling me fat and ugly for the 8,000th time, it's hard not to have feelings about that. But I'm gonna do my best to take the lead on this, okay? Seriously. We need to start ignoring these fucking retards. They are distracting us from what we should be doing. They are trying to pull us down to their level. It's not okay. It's just a distraction. And I know that we all want to give them a piece of our minds because they're being assholes on the internet. But we need to try to rein that stuff in. And I'm going to do my best to provide a better example. And that's what we're going to try to do. And if you have to respond to them, then do it. If you have a zinger that you just can't help but get it out, I'm not going to tell you no. I'm not going to say no. Every once in a while, I might make a mistake as well. But I really do want to try, guys, to focus on what we're doing. We have the moral high ground. We have the intellectual high ground. And yeah, Frank McCormick made a meme where James Lindsay was Princess Leia, and I was kind of like, that wasn't thought through, was it? Anyway, couple other announcements, guys. Now, you guys might remember this Substack that I used to update all the time and then I stopped updating. I'm reviving it. This is another way for people to get notified about what I'm streaming about for the day. This is just a really simple way I created a while ago to get around YouTube notifications. And basically, all it is when you sign up for this Substack, it's thecult.substack.com. It's completely free. It's just for people who want updates. I'm going to be posting, here is what I'm streaming about for the day before the stream so people can decide whether or not they want to come to the stream or not. So you can see I'm reviving this Substack. There's already like hundreds of people subscribed to it. So we might as well use it as part of our process. You can also get the same information in the Telegram channel or by following me on Twitter. It's just an option if people do want to be able to have that type of notification in their inbox. I know a lot of people found it useful. I just got to a point where I couldn't update it, but I've streamlined the process now. I'm streamlining processes. I'm making things more efficient. This is all about giving people multiple options and multiple ways to interact with what we're doing. And so that is back. And I think that's all the announcements I have. And let's just get into the content, shall we? Because we got a lot to do. Let's jump into this, and we're going to do this until about 7:15, and then I'm going to go and do the other stream. I need everyone to mount the like button for me. I need everyone to make sure you are subscribed to the channel on whatever you're watching on, whether that be YouTube or Rumble or X, if you are not already. And if there's anyone new in the chat that's never watched Socialism or Communism with us before, let us know. If anyone has questions, let us know. Of course, we'll be monitoring the chat. We're going to be listening to what communists say when they're asked questions about what they believe. This is the Revolutionary Communists of America. They are Marxist-Leninists. These are not queer Marxists. These particular Marxists actually don't believe in queer Marxism as a form of Marxism. So we're going to be hearing some more kind of like old school communism today, but it will be interesting to hear how they answer these questions. So we're gonna watch this video and we're gonna respond to it, and then in about 2 hours we're gonna go over and do a live crashing of Haymarket Books' live stream, and it's gonna be great. So let's get this party started, guys.
I'm Fred Weston. I'm a leading member of the Revolutionary
What the hell?
Communist International. And this is the Communism Autocomplete interview.
A specter is haunting Europe. The specter of communism.
Communism is stronger, more determined than ever.
Dedicated to the establishment of a new order.
And welcome, comrades. I'm Joe Assad, and this is the Spectre of Communism. And this week we're doing something a little bit different. We've had a few suggestions via social media and people writing into the website that it would be good to hear some questions from people who don't consider themselves to be communists yet. People who might have a variety of opinions about communism, who might not understand what communism is, what it stands for, what we actually believe. And we were thinking about how we could actually do this. And I thought, you know what? What's the most broad and popular forum?
Yeah, let's all remember. This is a great point, Milo. Let's all remember that according to James Lindsay, what we are about to see is going to be a nonstop discussion of Marcuse and Gnosticism. All right, is everyone ready?
I can possibly use to canvass some questions. So I went to Google and I used the autocomplete function to generate the most popular questions people are searching online when it comes to communism. And we're very lucky to have Fred with us again
and
to
Oprah
answer some of these questions from his expert's perspective.
And Mao.
So question 1, what do communists believe?
What do we believe? What do we stand for? We stand for the abolition of class society. We stand for publicly owned means of production, planned under the control of the workers themselves, and that what they produce is for the benefit of the whole of society collectively. The word believe, to me, sort of implies
right.
You have a belief in something without any scientific proof or any real material basis to it, but you believe this because you assume certain things or you have prejudice about certain things. You know, communists believe this and communists believe that. That's not what it's about. It's not a religion. It's about
What? Excuse me, what? What was that? What did he just say? Excuse me?
About certain things. You know, communists believe this and communists believe that. That's not what it's about. It's not a religion.
It's not a religion? Are you sure? It's not a religion? Because I'm pretty sure that we've been hearing from James Lindsay that this is a Gnostic sex cult for like 2 years now. Communists say that it's not a religion. How interesting. Please continue.
It's about an understanding of the world from a class point of view, first of all. We think in terms of the interests of the working class, of working people, people who have to work to live, to earn a wage. And we look at it from the point of view, where did this society come from? How did we get to where we are as a society? And where are we going? Now, that implies several aspects. One, a thorough study of history, not just the recorded history of society, but going further back than that, you know, archaeological, etc. Even genetic studies these days give us a lot of information about the past. To get a much longer view of historical development from the very, very early forms of the human species, let's call them, some people don't like these words, you know, the primitive humans, who, as they emerged from the animal world and started to become human, as they learnt to survive in this world, developing different techniques, developing tools, hunting techniques, the way they found their food, the way they made their shelters, as they moved around the world, understanding how that kind of society, which from everything we've seen from all the studies show that they were in effect communistic. Because what does it mean to be communistic? It means there were no lords, there were no barons, there were no ruling classes, because there couldn't be in those conditions. A small group of humans had to work in solidarity.
What does it mean to be communistic? There's no hierarchy. There's no ruling class. there's no oppression because everyone is on the same level. That's what equity fundamentally means.
With each other and go hunting together, look out for each other. And there's no way you can go hunting and say, right.
No, he's not lying. No, he's not. No, he's not. Remember, the goal of the Marxist utopia is to flatten the hierarchy. He's not lying. I understand people say that, inevitably there's going to be a ruling class that emerges, and that's probably true, and we're not going to dismiss that. But in their minds, they really are trying to create a society where everyone is on the same level. So, no, he's not lying. Now, he's not being intellectually honest about the inevitable results of what they're trying to do and how there will always emerge a leadership class, because that's how human beings function. Human beings, a lot of people want to be followers. They need people to lead them, and that's just the way it goes. But the fundamental distinction between the capitalist society that we have now and the communist society that they want is the capitalist society has a hierarchy where some people have more resources than other people, and the communist society flattens the hierarchy so everyone has the same.
Now I'm taking 90% of the hunt. You guys can eat what's left.
Wouldn't be a very popular hunter.
Well, next time you wouldn't be part of the hunt, would you? There's a material basis to the communistic way of living of early humans. And that has been shown many times over by anthropological studies. How do we get from that to the society we live in today, where it is a case that people work together in, say, a big factory?
This is true, guys. Donald Trump winning the presidency means nothing. Communist organizations are recruiting at higher rates than they have been for years and years and years. There are a lot of disaffected lefties and Democrats and liberals who are like, the Democratic Party sucks, the Democratic Party fails us. And we saw this immediately. We literally saw this happening the day after the election, where communist groups were already going out and trying to pick off the disaffected to completely radicalize them, and they're going to be doing a whole heck of a lot more.
Them get just the basic wage, and a large chunk of the wealth they produce is taken by somebody else who's called a capitalist or the owner. There are
capitalist or owner.
There are privileged layers of people living above the rest of society. And it's an understanding of how that happened. Now, I'm not going to go into the details here because there's lots of texts that people can read. But we understand that as humans develop their techniques, especially with the evolution of the emergence of agriculture in its different forms,
agriculture, farmers,
started to create something which humans had not known before then, which was a surplus, an ability to actually produce more than what is necessary to keep one individual alive. When that happens, the work of one individual can actually sustain several people. So there's a surplus to his work. That's the material basis upon which a new figure can emerge in society, somebody who starts to appropriate that surplus. And you start to get these elites within society, which can only be backed up by having armed groups in their defense. The wealth is used, obviously, to pay these armed men. Like in Roman society.
Who are the armed men? Who are the armed men that are defending capitalism in our society, according to communists? The wealthy need armed men to defend them. Who are the armed men in our society that they believe are defending the capitalist? The armed men are the police. Yup, exactly. That's the police. The police are the managers of private property. The police are the defenders of capitalism. That's why they want to abolish the police. That's why they want to defund the police. Exactly. Well done, guys. Well done. Okay, Suzanne said that she was saying that he was lying in regards to James Lindsay. Correct enough, Suzanne. I appreciate that. Over 20 years of socialists controlling most of the big institutions, which feeds cultural view, the West has allowed this spread and positive view. The police uphold the owners. Exactly.
They would not have been able to keep the slaves in position without the Roman army. I mean, Spartacus proved that beyond any doubt. He really worried them for a long period of time.
He resisted that army for quite a long time.
That's right. He took up arms against them. And if they didn't have a Roman army, the slaves would have overthrown the system. So this kind of society emerges and creates a new form of society: slavery, feudalism, capitalism. They're different ways of production, modes of production, but there's one thing in common. There's a mass of people doing the work, and there's a minority at the top that accumulates the wealth, creates an apparatus to defend their privileged position. And then this is transmitted to society as this is how it has always been, is, and will always be. Therefore, give up on any idea of trying to change society. We don't agree with that. We think society has changed many times throughout history. Many different forms of society have existed, and capitalism is not the final product of historical development. Capitalism is one stage in the development of humanity, just as feudalism was a stage. It lasted something like 1,000 years, but it was a stage. Now, if you were living in the middle of feudalism, you would have probably thought this is how the world has always been and always will be. And yet one day something happened. Crowns started to fall. Kings started to be removed.
And their heads removed.
And they lost their heads, some of them. And a bourgeois revolution brought into being a different system, the capitalist system. But we believe, if you want to ask what we believe, capitalism plays a role for a period, as feudalism played a role for a period, and it reaches a point where it's exhausted.
What he's going to say is that communism is the highest evolved form of society. I know he's going to say that because I literally learned that in my international relations class at 8 a.m. in Boston University when I was a freshman. Well, yeah, when I was a freshman, because I took an international relations class at 8 a.m. at Boston University that was taught by Billy Corgan's uncle, Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins, for some reason. And Billy Corgan's uncle taught me in my international relations class at Boston University that communism is the highest evolved form of society. So that's what he's about to say, guys. What communists believe generally is that we are in late stage capitalism, which is that the capitalist system is about to completely fall apart. This is part of why the Revolutionary Communists of America chose this time to actually form their political party of the Revolutionary Communists of America. This is the international affiliate of the American Revolutionary Communists of America political party. And the reason they formed that party is they very literally believe that their revolution against capitalism is right around the corner. And they want to be prepared and they want to be organized for when that happens, because they believe that our capitalism is failing, that they are awakening the working class to have class consciousness, to understand that they are oppressed under this system, and they believe that in not too long they're going to overthrow the government of the United States and replace it with a communist society. Yeah, we're not talking about Robin Hood right now. We're paying attention to communists. Please, no more talk of Robin Hood. It has literally nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Exhausts its historical role, i.e., it can no longer take society forward. It starts actually to move in the other direction. And the world we live in today, we believe, is a confirmation of that. Here we have some of the most advanced technology that we've ever seen. Humans can do incredible things. We're discovering the solar system. We've gone beyond the solar system. We have telescopes that can see, billions of light years away. We understand so much more, and yet we have children starving to death. We have hunger. We have poverty. We have homelessness. At the same time, we have a layer of society living in extreme luxury, based on the work of the millions of workers. If you want to ask us what we believe this cannot last forever. Occasionally, the downtrodden rise up. If you don't mind me adding a little detail.
By all means.
I was visiting Lewis over the weekend and I went to the castle.
By the way, if those of you who are listening outside of the UK aren't aware, Lewis is a place, not a person.
Yeah, Lewis is
in this case.
It's a little town near the southern coast, not far from Brighton. There's a castle there. I visited it, and it tells you how the peasants saw the people that lived in the castle. It's actually there for the tourists to read. It says they describe them as devils. Then there's another little detail. What happened during the Peasants' Revolt in the 1380s? The local peasants, before moving on to London, attacked the castle, smashed everything up. To me, that brought out the hatred of the oppressed towards the oppressor. And I'm thinking, for centuries, those peasants must have felt enormous resentment towards these devils that lived in the castles, but they had no way of changing the world. They had no way of removing that. The Peasants' Revolt was one of those moments.
Please pay attention to the content that is actually on the screen. I really, guys, I don't want to have to police people, but there should be no talk of anything in the chat that's not directly related to what we're watching. I'm sorry. These are learning streams. These are research streams. This is a class. Please keep focused.
In history where those downtrodden peasants suddenly were given this chance to rise up and fight against their oppressors.
All right, Cam wants to know, who are the current downtrodden? Pop quiz for the chat. Who are the current downtrodden according to communists? And no, it's not humanities majors. That's a bullshit conservative narrative. We don't do that here, Cam. We don't do bullshit conservative shitposting and bullshit conservative talking points. That's not part of the game. Who are the current downtrodden that need to rise up? The downtrodden are the proletariat. They are the oppressed, the proletariat. What does proletariat mean, guys? No, this is not correct. They're members of the proletariat, but to say the proletariat is just immigrants and blacks, not correct at all, in any way. Those are two groups that are part of the proletariat, but they are not the whole proletariat. The workers, the working class. You want to laugh in my... I don't take well when people laugh when I'm giving them feedback, bro. We're gonna cut that shit out right now. If you're asking questions in my chat and we're giving you an answer, we expect you to pay attention. Us, well, who is us, kings? Who's us? What does that mean? Nope. Guys, stop engaging in identity politics. Why am I getting these answers? Why are people saying immigrants and blacks? I've never taught you guys that proletariat means immigrants and blacks. Why am I getting you saying minorities, poor, and undocumented? I've never taught that. Where's that coming from? Why are we making shit up? No, college professors would not be on the list at all. The workers. Everyone who is oppressed by capitalism. The wage earners. The proletariat and the collective oppressed by capitalism, the workers. Now, there is actually another factor to this. And Andrew's actually hitting on it. Andrew actually has the most correct answer. According to communists, we are all oppressed by capitalism, including the bourgeois. We are all oppressed. Capitalism works against all of us. This is actually the most correct answer. Everyone who is the beneficiary of capitalism. Guys, what does capitalism mean? Those who work for the owners of private property. Exactly. Well, Andrew, it's okay not to know. Are you new? Like, it's okay not to know. That's why we do these quizzes, so you can learn. That's like the whole purpose of it. So, bro, I don't mean to make you feel bad if I say that your answer is incorrect. I really, really don't. That's not the purpose of this. I want people to be able to throw out answers not knowing if they're correct and just take the feedback. And it's nothing personal. We want you to learn. It's not as though your answer was 100% wrong. It just wasn't a complete answer. So the purpose of this is to make sure that you have access to the most accurate information. So it's nothing personal. We're not trying to make you feel bad. It's okay to have a wrong answer. It's okay to have an incomplete answer. Just the purpose of this is to learn, and we've all been there, bro. There are things I've learned this live on the internet. We've all been there. So I appreciate you being here and throwing out the answer. Let's see. Capitalism means private property ownership. Exactly. What does private property mean? Your ability to own a home, your ability to own land, your ability to own intellectual property, your ability to own an apartment rental that you rent out as a landlord, your ability to own a private business, whether or not that private business is big or small. Your parental rights are considered to be a form of private property. Your individual liberties are considered to be a form of private property. I wouldn't say particularly anyone who rents. communists and socialists almost always rent because they don't believe in the ownership of bourgeois property. But that's not going to be a defining characteristic of who is and is not oppressed. Let's see. Tolkien fan says, I truly welcome all newcomers to this chat as you'll learn things that will change your entire outlook. Hey, thanks, Tolkien fan, for that. I welcome everyone too. So what they're saying when they're talking about who are oppressed, so it's a bit tricky, right? Because if you own a home, are you automatically a rich person? No. But you have more privilege than people who don't own a home, okay? Because a home is considered to be bourgeois property. Typically, when communists are talking about who is oppressed, well, yes, exactly. So the communists think we're all downtrodden. Yes. Would communists then think that they are no, they think everyone is downtrodden. You're not listening, Cam. Again, what I need you to do, and this is important for new people, I need you guys to unlearn every bullshit conservative talking point that you've ever heard about communism, because most of them are wrong. And this is something I had to go through as well. Communists don't think that they're more downtrodden than other people. Communists think that we are all downtrodden because we are all oppressed by capitalism. They don't think they're some special class. That is a conservative interpretation of what they think. They don't think they're special. They don't think they're unique little fucking snowflakes. They don't actually engage in identity politics the way conservatives do. They really don't. Not to the way that you guys think they do. They think everyone is downtrodden, everyone is oppressed by capitalism, and that they have the responsibility to wake people up to the realization that they're all oppressed by capitalism. Let's continue. Yeah, that's true. Most conservatives have a 1900 schoolboy understanding of communism. True. True.
And what do? They raid the local castle.
Prior to that, one of the only ways the peasants had of expressing their grievances towards their lords, if there was a famine, for example, would be to literally lie down on their land and starve to death, to lean against the wall of the castle ramparts and starve to death in protest. So you can
this is actually a great quote, Mizakan. Owners have to ensure that their businesses are profitable. Workers have to sell their labor and time to fulfill their needs. Exactly. That's from Emmy O'Brien. Emmy O'Brien is a queer anarcho-communist who I just followed on Blue Sky today. I'm getting onto Blue Sky to follow all the socialists. They're all on there now.
Imagine what it must have felt like to a peasant finally to
rise up,
to take arms in hand, and to finally try. Obviously, it was a defeated revolution, obviously it was a defeated movement, but nevertheless, to try and take some control over your life for the first time ever.
But you see, history has many moments in which we've seen this. You can go through long periods where it does seem as if nothing is happening. You know, everybody's in their place. The peasant is on the land and he does what he's told, or the workers in the factories. But there are moments in which the crisis of society brings to the surface a revolutionary fervor from below, and you see moments in which society can be radically changed. What we believe is history teaches that happens on a regular basis throughout history, and it hasn't ended. It's going to happen again and again, but this time it's going to be the workers in a capitalist society, in an industrial modern society, faced with the conditions that capitalism creates around them. You know, the growing poverty, the eating away of the value of wages, the destruction of the infrastructure, the healthcare system, education, etc., a constant increasing of the burden on the shoulders of working people will lead at a certain point to an eruption from below. And that will be a moment in history which will give us a chance to put an end to class society and actually create a different society. It will be the beginning of a new period in human history.
What does it mean when communists say they're going to put an end to class society? What does that mean? The communists believe that we are approaching a period We are in late stage capitalism. Capitalism is failing people. People are waking up to the fact that they are oppressed by this thing called capitalism, which is private property ownership. And now we're going to be moving into a period where the proletarian, the worker, is going to rise up, and they're going to end class society. What does that mean specifically? I'm not talking about getting rid of hierarchies. We already talked about that. What do they functionally need to do to end class society? Don't just give me my talking points. I need you guys to listen to the question that I'm asking. What do they functionally need to do to end class society on a highly practical level? You all know the answer to this. If you don't get the answer to this, someone's already gotten close to it in the chat. I'm going to be really pissed. I need you to listen to the question that I'm asking, and I need you to stop throwing out my talking points. What do they need to do to end class society on a highly practical level? Do not just give me one word, Tayton. What do they need to do to end class society? I need people to listen to the fucking question I'm asking. And I need you to give me a specific answer that will teach people what's going on. No. No one's done it. We're going to sit here until it happens. The whole purpose of these streams is to make sure that you guys can explain to normal people what is going on. I need you to... If you're talking to a normal person and they say, okay, well, they want to end class society, what the fuck does that even mean? What has to function? I need everyone to listen very carefully to the question that I'm asking. What has to functionally happen for them to end class society? We're starting to get some right answers now. Dragon Water for the win. They need to take over the government. Dragon Water, listen to the question I was asking. Liquid Marble, you got really close to it earlier. I know it has something to do with violently overthrowing the government. Exactly. That is the correct answer. This is why, guys, I need you to start listening to the questions that I'm asking, and I need you to give very specific answers. If you just throw out, as Tayton did earlier, revolution, what the fuck does that mean? If someone asks you, okay, so they're saying they want to overthrow class society, what does that actually mean? How are they going to do that? And you just say, revolution. That doesn't mean anything, guys. They need to violently overthrow the government. No popular vote. No vote. Guys, and AD, you should know this. They believe the Constitution upholds capitalism. They believe the Supreme Court upholds capitalism. They believe the Electoral College upholds capitalism. They believe the Senate upholds capitalism. They believe the presidency upholds capitalism. They believe the military upholds capitalism. They believe the police uphold capitalism. Why would they have a vote? Ain't no vote. Ain't no voting your way out of a system that is entirely designed to uphold capitalism. Does everyone understand? So used to the idea that they don't want to participate in the current government or elections at all, they want to replace it all. Exactly. Communists believe that voting will not change the current state of capitalism. That's exactly right. These are revolutionary communists. Revolutionary communists are fundamentally opposed to reformism. Reformism means voting. The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, are reformists. Real communists, real socialists are not part of the Democratic Socialists of America. Yes, we have them on video saying this. We literally have them on video saying this. This group in particular, we have this group saying they want to take over the federal government and raise the red flag of communism above the White House. We have them on video saying it. Does everyone understand? They believe the entire United States government, from the point of the Constitution, is a capitalist state. They believe the Constitution is a capitalist document. I have them on video saying that too. So this is not about working within the system. in order to abolish class society as they're describing, they need to violently overthrow the United States government. There will be no more country. There will be no more states. There will be no more borders. They don't believe in borders. They believe that borders uphold private property, which is capitalism. Yes. They say it. Of course you're not. I would never put you in a timeout, Dragon Balls. Don't give them grace. They don't deserve it. They have their own guns. And by the way, guys, I've said this a million times. They are not afraid of conservatives. They are not afraid of Republicans. They are not afraid of MAGA people. They don't even care about you. They are not afraid that you have guns. You want to know why? Because you guys are fucking lazy and you wouldn't get off of your lazy boys to go fight a war, and they fucking know it. The Civil War is not going to be left versus right. The Civil War is not going to be red versus blue. It's not going to be Republicans versus Democrats. The Civil War is radical revolutionary socialists versus the federal government. Conservatives and all their guns don't even play into it because they damn well know that you guys, no offense to you personally, but that you guys are fucking lazy and you're not going to war because they saw what happened on January 6th and no one brought guns. The Civil War is radical revolutionary socialists versus the federal government. Does anyone have any questions? Does everyone understand? No, you haven't, Andrew. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. Not in the way I'm talking about. No, you haven't. You may have seen a member of Antifa one time, but you have not been to civil war with Antifa. I'm sorry. That's just not true. All right. Moving on.
That's what we believe.
All right. That's a very thorough start to the autocomplete interview. Question 2. Why, Fred, do communists want to take my property? I don't mean specifically my property. I mean...
What's he going to say? What's he going to say? Dragon Balls, you've already seen this. Don't answer. I know what he's going to say. We don't want to take your property. There's a difference between personal property and bourgeois property. We're not going to take your property. Don't worry. We're never going to take your property. We're talking about, we want bourgeois property. We just want the means of production, guys. Don't worry about it. We're not going to take your stuff.
The royal mind.
Yeah.
Why do communists want to take people's property?
Yes, well, this is a common question which is asked, as if to say, what's behind it is this. Communists are lazy, no good for nothing louts. The only way they can imagine getting property is by taking away the hard-earned property of other people.
Yeah, they're envious.
That's right.
Deeply jealous of the wealth and riches of the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezoses of the world, who honestly earned their massive corporations through hard graft and inheriting the occasional emerald mine.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, the truth of the matter is this. It's actually not possible to accumulate huge amounts of wealth through simply 8 hours labor a day. The only way you can accumulate wealth is actually by exploiting the labor of somebody else.
Right.
The labor time of somebody else. They work for you, you pay them a certain amount, but obviously you make a profit. But the question is this. Communists don't want to take people's individual property away from them. Why would I want to take somebody's house? It's ridiculous. What we're actually talking about is not the taking away of everybody's property. This is the scare. Oh, the scare mongering.
There it is.
They're going to take a toothbrush.
They'll take everything. No, it's private property of the means of production that we're talking about, i.e., we are talking about.
He just said, we don't want to take your house. Don't worry. But what they said earlier in this is, guys, we have all these homes, but we also have all these homeless people. And why don't we utilize all these empty houses that we have to house all these homeless people? Why do we have all these homes, but we still have all these homeless people? I don't understand. Well, guess what? They have absolutely no problem taking someone's home if that person is not currently living in that home, if that person maybe has a second home, if that person owns an apartment rental that they rent out as a landlord because they really don't like landlords, and they have no problem saying, we're just going to take this private property that you already own because you're not living in it, you're not using it, and we're going to give that to homeless people to make sure they have a home. So do you really own your home? In their world, they just said, we don't want to take your home, don't worry. What they mean is they're not going to kick you out of your home. But if you have a second home, if you have an apartment rental, if you own a cabin in the woods, if you own some other piece of property that you are not currently living in now, they have no problem taking that and saying that they're going to use that to house people so everyone can have a home. So they are in favor of taking your home. And where do you think the line is really going to be drawn? If you start providing problems for them, if you start going against what they want, do you think they're going to have any gumption about taking you out of your home and putting you somewhere you don't want to be? Because they will effectively control all the private property. Does everyone understand this? This is why it is so important that people understand the definition of what private property ownership means. What capitalism private property ownership means. Because they play these tricks all the time. We don't want to take your home, but if you have a second home, we'll take that. What the fuck is the difference? What the fuck is the difference? You own both those homes. You've paid taxes on both those homes. You pay for the upkeep on both those homes. Maybe you're not living in one right now. Maybe one's a summer home. Who the fuck knows? But they have no problem taking that. And if they have no problem taking that, they have no problem taking your primary residence as well. And eventually you get to a place like North Korea where you are assigned a home. And if you are a problem for the state, you're probably not going to like the home you're living in.
The big multinational corporations, the big companies that dominate, it is literally the case now that a few hundred big multinational corporations dominate the world economy. And in each country, you can find several hundred companies that are responsible for a huge part of the production.
Right.
Now, what we say is that private property.
Hey, Cam, how much money do you want to donate to me so I can spend time making that? I'm currently writing a book that's going to help people out with this. I stream 6 days a week doing deep dives. Guys, if you have special requests like this, please come with a dollar amount. Please come with a dollar amount. Please, make sure you're subscribed on my Substack. Make sure you're sending in super chats because I only have so many hours in the day, Cam. I appreciate the suggestion, but I have other things to do. Thank you.
Should be expropriated, should be made public, and should be used for the good of humanity, not the house or the back garden or the car or the stereo.
And by the way, guys, too, I will say this, and Cam, I really don't mean this as a personal thing towards you. I really don't. I know you followed my work for a while. Yeah, $5 ain't gonna cover that, bro. $5 doesn't even pay for a monthly membership on my website. You can go make your own fucking card game and see how many hours you spend on that, and then dedicate your own $5, okay? But what I will say is this. If you are not currently utilizing the resources that I have made available through the hundreds of articles that I have on my Substack, through the hundreds of clips that I've created, through the How to Speak Socialist presentation, through the premium materials that I've created that you can access for a couple bucks a month. I literally paid $12 for a cup of coffee at the airport last week. You can access my premium materials for less than that. You can access the clips that we make on Twitter. You can access the clips that we make on YouTube. You can access the streams I do 6 days a week. If you are not utilizing those resources, and if I don't see you being an active part of the chat, and I don't know that you're contributing more than a couple bucks a month, I gotta say, guys, I'm not in the place to take suggestions from people who are not already utilizing all the resources that are available, because I've created an immense amount of resources for people to learn this information. You can come up, learn it for free. I have no problem with that. I just want to make sure we're clear that I already have a fuck ton of stuff to do. I'm doing my very best to create as many resources as possible, but please utilize the resources that I've already created for you, because most people don't even know how many resources exist. Go to the Substack, Go do the How to Speak Socialist training. Go access the YouTube channel. I have over 2,000 fucking videos. Like, there are so many resources. You guys have access to me to ask questions in the chat. You have access to me to ask questions on Twitter. But please utilize what has already been created.
Whatever it is that people own individually, they're not, you see, the point is this: the private ownership of a house or a car is not the cause of the crisis.
Right.
It's the private property of the means of production, the big ones.
But also, just as a point of information, we were talking about this yesterday, something like 86% of landlords in Britain are what are known as portfolio landlords, which means they have at least 4 properties, only one of which presumably they live in long term. Maybe they have a holiday home.
What did I just say earlier about fucking landlords? What did I just say? What's he saying right now? You know, we're not talking about taking your home, but if you own more than one home, and there are these landlords in the UK that own as many as 4 homes, why do they need to own 4 homes? Why do they have to have a holiday home? Why do they have to have places they're not even living in? We'll just take those homes. Listen to what he's about to say. I called it. Everyone owes me $2.
But the rest, they simply use as assets in order to extract wealth from other people in the form of rent.
That's right.
So the vast majority of people don't own a home. Even those who think they do, really, in most cases, the bank owns your home. That's what a mortgage is. You don't own that home. The bank owns that home.
Thank you,
the bank owns that property, and you pay them off over the course of however many decades. And more people than that are renting. Who they don't even have a mortgage. They don't even have an eventual claim to the property that they live in.
Well, you see, that take housing, you know, one of the most important items that an ordinary working class or, you know, any working family can aspire to own is the house, right? Which takes decades for most families to achieve through a mortgage, through paying interest.
If they ever do.
If they do. Now, you see, they say that capitalism works because it's based on private property and everybody wants property, etc. But if we look at what's happening today, families, let's say the previous generation, my parents, I remember, they started with nothing and they managed to buy themselves a house. This was at the peak of the boom.
Hey, we got Rhino over on Rumble with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Rhino, for our Rumble rant. We got Mass Genocide over on YouTube with a $2 super chat. Thank you guys for paying up. Guys, the honor system on my channel is that when I'm right about something, and especially if you were wrong about that thing, you owe me $2. It's an honor system. You don't have to play, but I appreciate when people do. Thank you, guys.
But in those days, the value of a house was actually much lower relative to wages. So working class people could actually afford to get onto the property ladder. Since then, what we've seen is precisely what you're saying.
Hey, thanks,
the big landlords who are grabbing the property, and in a situation where people obviously need to live somewhere, if you have control over the housing stock, you can push up the rent, and the price also has massively gone up. So in reality, a lot of people don't even have their own house as a private property. So it's funny that the capitalist class should accuse communists of wanting to take people's property in the sense of your house, when in actual fact, it's the capitalists who are taking away people's small property, such as, you know.
Don't worry, guys. You don't really own your house anyway. The bank owns your house. And so if we take the house that you're living in, you didn't even own it. This is the rationalization that's happening right now. You guys think you own your house, but you don't actually own your house. The bank owns your house. He's not wrong about that. But we need to play out the rationalizations to its logical conclusion. You don't even own your own house. Therefore, if we take your house from you and reappropriate it, because maybe you own more than one house, maybe you have a vacation home, maybe we even just decide we take your house because you don't own it anyway. You don't own your house. And so if we appropriate that house, then we didn't take anything from you because you didn't own it anyway. That's the logic that's being played right now.
Housing, the percentage of families that can actually afford to buy their property now is going down. So it's actually the capitalists who are taking away property. If anything, as communists, we would defend the right of a working class family to hold on to its house, but we would explain it's because of the private property, i.e. this big percentage of the housing stock which is owned by big landlords, plus the ownership of the big means of production, the big corporations, the big companies, the factories, the offices, etc., which are used to maximize the profit of the small minority. That is the private property,
right,
which we say should be eliminated, because that is the cause of the crisis that we're living in.
I just did a quick Google. Google's doing a lot of the hard work in this episode. And it turns out that in the 1970s in Britain, a home in London on average cost about 4 times a worker's annual wage. So this is the median income.
Yeah, that's right.
Today, it's about 14 times.
That's
so
right.
that gives some idea of the scale. I think this is the
Yo, Tolkien fan! Thank you, Tolkien fan. Here's my Carlin is Right Again payment. I can't thank you enough for all the information you have created and the long hours needed to put it together. I'm so done with the conservative right. Can we all just give Tolkien fan a salute in the chat and 07 in the chat? That's awesome. Thank you, Tolkien fan. I appreciate the super chat and the kind words. That's awesome. Let me just add this to our little tally here. We are 78% of the way to our goal today. That's pretty great. That is pretty great. I love it when I get people so riled up that they give up on all conservative media. Didn't the Bolsheviks give spare rooms to other people? Like, you have a spare room poo? Yeah, basically. Yes, Jennifer. That's basically it. Why do you need that spare room, Jennifer? Why do you need that office that you're working in? Can't you move that computer into your living room? You got a spare bed in that room. Someone else can live in that bed. That's exactly right. It's a salute.
way that we can summarize the question. We can't take away what you don't have. Marx made this point. The working class is a class which owns essentially nothing. You know, what do you own? If you're watching this episode at home, chances are you're an ordinary working person. You own the clothes on your back. You own a phone. You own maybe a car if you're lucky. You own some furniture. You own some bits and pieces that you need to carry out the essential tasks of life. These things are functionally worthless. They mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. They can't be used as investable assets. They can't be used to generate any more profit. They might as well not exist as far as the grander scheme of the economy is concerned. Really speaking, you own nothing. And a tiny, tiny fraction of humanity owns essentially everything. We don't want to take your
Jewish
property away. I'm pointing at the screen if you're listening to the audio
say it out
version.
loud.
We don't want to take away your property, listener, viewer, because chances are you don't have any.
See?
We want to expropriate the property of...
See? What did he just say? Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. We don't want to take away your property. You don't own your home anyway. The bank owns your home. And so if we come in and we say we're commandeering this property, you don't own your home anyway. Has anyone ever been so vindicated as me? I knew exactly what these people were going to say because I've heard them say it a million times before.
The 1% or the 1% of 1% who control the levers of production, as we would put it.
That's right. Well, for example, in Britain, they privatized the water companies. The private owners of the water companies are making fat profits, sucking money out of the state, and we have the most polluted waters we've ever had.
Yeah, pumping literal crap into the rivers.
That's right. So there's an example of... They say, the reason the Labour government says we cannot nationalise water is...
All right, Jaxie is falling into the trap. Jaxie has taken the bait that the communists have set. What mistake has Jaxie just made? Pop quiz for the chat. What mistake has Jaxie just made? Jaxie, the communists just kicked you out of your house, and they've assigned you to live in a small little 1-bedroom apartment where you're sharing a bathroom with 3 guys down the hall because they've decided that you no longer need to live in whatever place you're living in. They've taken it away from you now because you said, oh, you're right, I didn't own this anyway. And they said, we know you don't own it, so we're taking it from you. They just kicked you out. They took all your stuff. They didn't give you any time to pack because you don't own that property anyway, and you've actually just agreed to that now. Even if you're renting, you have no claim over that property, so they can just take it from you, kick you out, send you wherever you like. The police are going to allow the police. Yeah, well, the police can't save you. That's exactly right, because they've abolished the police. That's exactly right. Jaxie, do you understand how you just fell right into their trap? You never give these people an inch, guys. You give these people an inch, you're going to find yourself living in a communist society. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. That is a different problem for a different day. People have got to stop conflating problems. Is it true that we don't technically own our home, the bank owns our home? Yeah, it is. But you know what? In this society, right now, unless I stop paying my mortgage, they're not going to come in and kick me out of my house. Unless I just stop paying my mortgage. And then eventually they're going to be like, get the fuck out. But in their society, they're going to take what you just said. Well, aren't they right? We don't own our home. And they're going to say, yeah, you are right. You don't own your home. Get the fuck out. We're taking it now. That's the trap that's being set. They're putting a nugget of truth, and then they're covering it in a mound of bullshit. And by the way, Rottweiler is correct. This is where squatters' rights comes from. This conversation right here. This is why it is near impossible for landlords to kick people out of their apartments. This whole thing. Exactly. You never give them an inch because they will use it against you to take away your house.
They say it would cost 100 billion. The answer communists would say is, no, it wouldn't cost 100 billion. They have already made big amount of money by controlling those companies. Those companies should be publicly owned. You should expropriate them and make them public again. They don't need that. You don't pay them $100 billion. No. You expropriate.
In subsidies, they've been paid out of the public purse many times over. That's right. For the value of that asset.
Many times, and they've destroyed the service.
Yes.
As a result, that's the proof that private property of the means of production, in this case, the production of clean, potable, drinkable water.
No, capitalism is not what stops them. You know what stops them? The fucking cops. That's what stops them. What stops them is they do not currently control the government. That's what stops them. This is why, guys, this is why every time a fucking conservative says, we already live in a capitalist, or excuse me, we already live in a communist world, the communists already won, we already live in communism, I say shut the fuck up. Because right now, communists cannot come into your home and kick you out. The reason they can't come into your home and kick you out is we don't live in a communist world. We live in a capitalist world. We still have the police. We still have safeguards. We still have things that prevent them from getting their way. And until those things go away, we don't live in a communist world. So stop fucking saying we do.
Doesn't work with capitalist methods.
Right. And we could say the same of the transport network, railways, about
health
infrastructure,
service, education,
we'll have to move on. But I think that the question's adequately answered, so we'll move on. Question 3. Why do communist countries have dictators? Because, of course, dictators are unheard of in capitalist countries, apparently.
Well, first of all, capitalist countries also have dictators. Hitler was a dictator, Mussolini, Franco, Pinochet. We have had many, many dictators of capitalist countries. But the reason that question gets asked is
Stalin.
Because, first of all,
Stalin.
Russia under
Stalin ruined everything, is what they're going to say.
And other countries of that kind. First of all, they're defined by the media as communist. And then, of course, they are dictatorships. And therefore, why does communism produce dictators? Well, first,
Yeah, that's. Spoiler alert: Hitler was a socialist. Hitler was a socialist of the nationalist variety. Hitler was a national socialist. Hitler was not a capitalist, guys. That's bullshit. Hitler was absolutely not a capitalist. Hitler was a national socialist. That's not the same as them though. Hitler, like and I'm not a Nazi. I'm explaining. I just know what they believe. In Hitler's Germany, they still believed in private property. So he's not this kind of socialist. He's not like when again, this when stupid right wingers say Hitler was a socialist. That's dumb. And I used to say that too, and I was wrong. Hitler still believed in private property ownership. Hitler actually had special government incentives where, like, if people had 4 kids, they basically got a government loan for a home for free, or like they could take out a loan for their home, but like if they had 4 kids, the loan was basically forgiven. So they still believed in private property. So he wasn't this type of socialist. He was a different type of socialist. He fundamentally rejected Marxism. He was originally fighting the Marxists. Don't tell anyone because it'll get you banned off the internet, but he was. And then he decided all the Marxists were Jewish. And, you know, who's to say whether he was right or wrong about that? Who's to say whether or not he's right or wrong about whether or not all the Marxists were Jewish? I mean, we can actually let's listen to James Lindsay explain this. It's a great clip. Let's listen to James Lindsay explain what Hitler thought.
That Adolf Hitler made, that he records for himself in the first chapters of Mein Kampf, which I have bothered to read more than once. I don't speak German, so I didn't read it in German, but I have read it, and he's very clear that he's fighting with the Marxists. He's fighting with the Marxists. He's fighting with the Marxists. He can't stand the Marxists. You argue with them, they lie. The Marxist press prints nothing but lies, and the rest of the media goes along. He yells at them till his voice goes hoarse, drinks his bottle of milk, and comes back and yells at them some more. He's got all these rants about the Marxists. And then he says that one day he finally realized something interesting about them. All the Marxists, all the Social Democrats, which is what the Bolsheviks called their party, was the Social Democrat Party, all of them were Jewish.
Now, who's to say whether or not that was right or wrong? I'm not making a commentary on that. I'm merely pointing out that Hitler was, in fact, fighting the Marxists, as confirmed by James Lindsay. And whether or not all the Marxists were also Jewish is another question for another day, okay? That's another stream entirely. But the bigger point here is, like, the idea that Hitler was some sort of capitalist leader is not accurate at all in any way.
First of all, we have to unravel this and say they were not communist. Even they themselves didn't call their countries communist. They called them, Soviet Socialist Republics, etc. The idea was that they were building towards communism. The truth is that genuine communism is based on public ownership of the means of production, but also the management and control of those means of production by the mass of working people themselves through elected bodies, etc. In these countries, you didn't have that. You didn't have the election of the officials. You didn't have the election of the people at the top. And what you also had was a bureaucracy which had risen above society, living in privileged conditions. They were living above the conditions of the working class. It was a classic bureaucracy that emerged. The reason for that is, you can read Trotsky on the Revolution Betrayed and other texts on that. But the reason for that is that you cannot have a genuinely planned economy that works within one single country. 2, especially in a relatively backward economy where you have to build up the resources, such as in Russia after 1917. The Russian Revolution was not envisaged as a national revolution. The Bolsheviks saw it as the beginning of a world revolution. That failed because of the leaders of the social democracy in other countries that blocked that process. But once that had happened, the bureaucracy that emerged had a material condition which was different to the mass of working people. Now, in any society like that, if you had a genuine workers' democracy, the workers would have the ability to question and challenge the bureaucrats, challenge the way they managed, challenge what they were doing, challenge the fact that they were living above the conditions of the working class. And if it was a genuine democracy, they would be able to remove them and elect others who represent them. That means that inevitably, once you have a bureaucracy like that, it will move in the direction of a dictatorship. It has to be like that because any element of workers' rights would mean to the workers challenging those bureaucrats. But that would mean they would lose the privileges which go with being a bureaucrat and an official. And therefore...
Kyle, did people own their homes or no? Did people own their homes or no? That's the question. Did people own their homes or no? The answer is yes, they own their homes. They actually got a pretty fucking good deal on those homes because they did decide that people having children and having families and having homes was conducive to the will of the state. So don't fucking rationalize this, bro. Don't fucking do this nitpicky bullshit that you like to do. Because I'll call you out on that shit right quick. Did they own their homes? Yes. Did they believe in private property? Yes. That means Hitler wasn't a fucking Marxist. He specifically denounced it.
You have these dictatorships, but that's not communism. That we would, I mean, it's a Stalinist type dictatorship in one country after another in that part of the world. So communism does not produce dictators, but the contrary. But a degeneration of a revolution like the one we saw in Russia, in the conditions in which we saw it, eventually does produce that phenomenon.
Yeah, and I think that people should listen to our previous episode on the question of socialism in one country with Nicholas, because he goes into some of the nuts and bolts of the impossibility of achieving that and what actually emerged in the USSR and elsewhere. Next question. Why does communism not work? Doesn't get much blunter than that, but yeah, we've passed it to Google, so we won't complain.
Well, you see, the capitalists...
Hey, Kyle, when I ask you a fucking yes or no question, I expect a yes or no answer. So now we're going to stop the entire stream and we're going to make it all about you, bro. Did they own their homes, yes or no? I expect a yes or no answer. You want to do this fucking nitpicky bullshit? You will deal with my fucking Socratic method, and if you don't, you're going to get timed out for the rest of the fucking stream. Did they own their homes, yes or no? You can do all this fucking... I'm not a Nazi. Hitler was awful, but... worst person in the world. You can do all this fucking rationalization all you want. It is completely distracting from what we're doing and what the fucking topic is. Exactly. Yes, they own their homes. That's all that fucking matters for our purposes now. If you want to argue about Hitler, go do it on fucking Twitter. I don't want to see it in my chat. No. In fact, time out. You want to fuck around? Time out. I said yes or no answer. You are in my fucking house. You are in my fucking classroom. You want to come and be disruptive in my chat, which you have a really bad fucking habit of doing because you're being a nitpicky, autistic asshole. I'm going to put you in a timeout. I'm going to make it so you can't talk and disrupt my chat anymore.
System, they say, works. Well, let's look at that. Let's look around the world today. Is capitalism creating a flourishing society that's moving forward, that feels confident that things are better today than they were yesterday, and tomorrow's going to be even better? The health service is getting better all the time. Education is getting better all the time. Life is wonderful, and there's no wars, there's no diseases, there's no famine, there's no climate change, there's none of that. I'm saying it like this purposely because anybody that listens to that will realize that, well, actually, capitalism doesn't work either. What capitalism does, it seems to work
Look at that deflection. Did everyone just catch that deflection, or were we too busy dealing with Kyle's bullshit in the chat? Did everyone... Actually, we're going to go back and watch that again, because I want to make sure everyone actually caught that deflection that just happened, because that was an epic deflection. So they're talking about, why doesn't communism work? Yes, that's what we're doing here. Why doesn't communism work? And they're like, why do you think capitalism works?
Not work. Doesn't get much blunter than that, but yeah, we passed it to Google, so we won't complain.
Well, you see, the capitalist system, they say, works. Well, let's look at that. Let's look around the world today. Is capitalism creating a flourishing society that's moving forward, that feels confident that things are better today than they were yesterday, and tomorrow's going to be even better? The health service is getting better all the time. Education is getting better all the time. Life is wonderful. And there's no...
Yeah, Rhino over on Rumble says, so what if communism didn't work? Capitalism didn't work either, so why don't we try communism again? Exactly.
Wars, there's no diseases, there's no famine, there's no climate change, there's none of that. I'm saying it like this purposely because anybody that listens to that will realize that, well, actually, capitalism doesn't work either. What capitalism does, it seems to work for certain periods, and they can last a few decades. Like, if you take Germany between 1890 and just before the First World War, seemed to be working. Standard of living of workers was going up. Wages were going up. They were getting pensions. They were getting granted reforms. A similar period after the Second World War, roughly 25 years. You know, from the end of the war to the mid-70s, the NHS was established. When I went to university, you were given a grant. You didn't come out of university with a lot of money in debt.
That must have been nice.
Yeah, you got a grant, and it was basically you were given your independence, and your education was paid for, and you came out with your degree without all the burden of debt that you...
Hey, Jen, what about what he said makes you think that he wants an asteroid to hit Earth? Because I don't get that interpretation at all. I don't, like, please, like, I know you're a little bit woo, I get it, but can we please have serious comments?
People have today. So in that period, it did seem, yes, capitalism seemed to be working. Again, careful with that. It seemed to be working in some countries. Western Europe, North America, a few other places like Australia, Japan, and a few other advanced capitalist countries. In the former colonial world, in Latin America, in Africa, in large parts of Asia, it wasn't working so well. That explains actually why in that period you had so many revolutionary movements in that part of the world. So there are periods in which it seems to work, and then in certain parts of the world and for certain layers of the population. But then it goes into crisis. And when it goes into crisis, it turns into its opposite. So we would say capitalism isn't working. Now the question is this: why didn't communism work? Well, it's connected to the previous answers. It wasn't communism that failed because communism was never achieved in these countries.
Real communism has never been tried. There it is. That is actually their legitimate answer. Guys, it wasn't that communism failed. It was that real communism has never been tried. Pop quiz. Why was real communism not tried? What is going to be the rationalization? Why has real communism never been tried? But why? Yes, Stalin fucked it up. These are Marxist-Leninists. They believe that Stalin ruined everything. Stalin fucked up communism. How did Stalin fuck up communism? Well, it wasn't tried in an industrialized country, and Stalin didn't try to globalize it. That's why. Yup, they do believe that Stalin and Mao weren't real communists. Exactly. They believe that this is part of why they want to do communism in the United States. This is part of why every time a conservative says, you know, why don't they just go live in Cuba? Why don't they just go live in Venezuela? They're not going to do that because they believe that in order for communism to be successful, it needs to happen in an industrialized country like the United States, because they believe that communism is the highest evolved form of society. It needs to go through capitalism completely and reach its natural end state. They also believe that it can't just happen in one country. It has to happen on a global scale. Stalin was a nationalist. Stalin did not try to globalize the Russian Revolution. That was part of how Stalin fucked it up, according to these people. And so that's why they believe that real communism hasn't been tried, because it wasn't tried in an industrialized country, and because Stalin didn't try to do it on a global basis. Does everyone understand? We're going to hear them say something to that effect.
You see, in capitalism, there is an element of truth in what they say. There's a kind of self-regulating mechanism, i.e., if a capitalist makes a TV which explodes when you turn it on, nobody's going to buy any more of those, and they're going to have to design a TV that does not explode.
Yeah.
So it's in his interests, that capitalist, to make things that work. When you have a bureaucracy that is interested in meeting targets and producing huge quantities of goods so they can just tick off and say target reached, and the quality is bad, there's no market to regulate it. Now, in that kind of system, the only way you can make sure there's a regulation of the quality is by having workers' democracy, i.e., if the TVs are bad, it's the workers who produce them are also the people that use them. If you have workers' democracy, they can say, just a minute, this guy has designed a really bad TV, back to the drawing board, redesign until we have something that we can use. But that would require workers' democracy. It would require workers' power, which would also mean that the guys doing this would not be living separate from the working class, above the working class, in a privileged condition. They would be under the democratic control of the work.
That was the other mistake that Stalin made. Stalin effectively created, this is the other thing they've said, and we've heard them on video saying this, I just forgot about it. They said that Stalin effectively recreated the capitalist system by setting himself apart from all the workers, because he did have that kind of like, you know, they had like the what is it called, like the inner circle, the inner party. Like in 1984, they have the outer party and the inner party, and that hierarchy, the outer party versus the inner party, effectively creates a hierarchy, which effectively recreates capitalism. So that's another one. Yeah, exactly. Stalin had a hierarchy
Of the workers. That would be the way.
That's why they like
to have a regulating mechanism on the quality, the quantity of goods, what we produce, how we produce it, in the interests of humanity as a whole. So communism can work. It has never actually been achieved. Now, people say, so it's never been achieved, so it will never be achieved. Well, my answer to that is, actually, capitalism hasn't always existed. There was a time in which there was no such thing as capitalism.
Real capitalism
there was no
hasn't
such
been
thing
achieved either,
as
guys.
bourgeois owners of the means of production.
It wasn't even that long ago in the grand scheme of things.
That's right, just a few centuries. In some parts, it only developed in the last 50, 60 years, to be honest. Consolidated its position. Now, if you'd have gone back into that period, imagine a couple of people speaking in a field under feudalism, and one says, do you know, this society we live in where we have to work all day digging land for a pittance.
Yeah, 8 of my children have died this year.
That's right. All the disease. No, we want a society where we have factories that make tools that produce.
Che Guevara. We watched a couple documentaries about Che Guevara not too long ago, Kings. You might want to go back and watch. The reason that Che Guevara was so successful and so iconic as a communist is Che Guevara was a man of the people. Che Guevara showed up and he worked alongside all the workers, even when they just thought he was showing up for like a photo shoot or something. He did the photo shoot, he did the things with the TV cameras, and then when the TV cameras turned off, he still stayed and did the regular work as just with the regular workers, just like he was anyone else. He was like a warrior. He went out into like doing these guerrilla things in the jungle. He did not live a life of luxury at all. And with Che Guevara, it was actually, it really is kind of like fascinating. Like Che Guevara made it to be like, Che Guevara's whole idea was that communists had to get themselves to like a mental place where they do the work for the internal satisfaction of doing the work. So it wasn't that he was doing the work for some external reward. It was that he was doing the work because he knew he was contributing to the revolution, and that was what he had to do in order to do that. And he provided the role model for the workers to be able to like say, oh, this is what it means to be a good communist, but in a real way. He didn't set himself apart. There wasn't any hierarchy. He worked right alongside them and did every single thing they did, and that's why he was so respected, and that's why he was so loved, and that's why he became so iconic in that movement, because he represented to the worker what the true communist was.
Tractors, so we don't have to dig the land. It probably would have been seen as completely utopian. What are you talking about?
What is a tractor?
That's right.
Would have been the first question.
And yet capitalism came into being through revolutions. As capitalism came into being, so can the future communist society.
And the difference, of course, being that the bourgeois didn't themselves set out to create capitalism as a world system. They instinctively followed their class interests when they went to war with feudalism, with the divine right of kings, with the arbitrary power of the crown and taxation and so on, when they developed industry, developed science and techniques so that they could,
the bourgeois were emerged, obviously, within the system. They needed their space within society.
Right.
They needed instruments of power to function, which came into contradiction with the way the feudal system worked.
Sure.
And therefore, even though they weren't conscious of where they were going, they were inevitably coming into conflict with the feudal aristocracy.
But the difference with socialism is that we are conscious of what we're fighting for. The difference is that the working class has ideas, it has a tradition, and it has methods of struggle. And we're in the process of trying to develop a revolutionary leadership that has a program ready-made when the movement that becomes the revolution in a given country breaks out and knows what to do to begin the task of constructing a new form of society.
We're seeing it already. I mean, it's not the purpose here, but if you look around the world, the overthrow of the dictator in Bangladesh this year, the big movement in Kenya, the movement last year in Sri Lanka, we saw on TV screens, phone screens or whatever it is, computer screens people look at, we saw revolutions. We saw ordinary people en masse going to the presidential palace, removing the hated dictators. Why do they do that? Because life has become intolerable for them. That's the beginning of a process. The point is, of course, it's not enough to be angry and rebelling against what you have. You've got to have a clear idea of what is going to replace it. And that's where the role of communists comes in. All
right. Here's a good one. Are communists atheists?
Oh!
Well, if you want the short answer is yes, in the sense that...
These two communists are atheists.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I was brought up a Catholic, but I started to realize that what they preached and what they actually did... My mother actually had an old saying, she was a peasant. She said, do what the priest tells you, do not do what the priest does. And I used to think...
That's a vote of confidence, isn't it?
That's a bit of a contradiction. Why should I listen to somebody telling me to do stuff that he's not prepared?
Yeah, this is a good point. Religion is a hierarchy.
What it meant
but let's
was...
hear him out.
Be good, help the poor, etc. Abide by the laws, abide by the rules of society, But if the priest doesn't do that because the priest is greedy and is taking more than he should do or behaving in a corrupt manner, well, don't copy what he does. It's a bit of a contradiction. But to get back to the actual question, we're materialists, i.e., we look at the material world, we analyze the world as it is, the real material that we have in front of us. We look at science, we understand how matter functions, how society moves, how history moves, and we look at all the material factors. We don't believe there's some kind of spirit outside of this world intervening and affecting the world that we live in. And we believe that if we really want to change society, it's this society that we change, not the next, in the next world. You know, it's the power that religion has over the minds of many people is, I've heard it many times, say, yes, when we're all dead, we're all equal, you know, etc.
True, I suppose.
It's true, we're all equally dead. But
I just want to point out, what we're not hearing in this answer is the state is God. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Rhino, over on Rumble. They don't believe the state is God. Okay? That's not, I want everyone to pay very close attention to what they're actually saying. He's saying, and I don't know, we're going to hear him out on the rest of this, but he's saying that we're not dealing in terms of spirituality because what we want to do is affect the material conditions of the world we're existing in right now. That's very different than saying the state is God. This is a classic example of like there being a massive cavern between what the left actually believes and what the right believes they believe. I kind of sounds like it, but we'll see.
While we're alive, some lived in
They
luxury and others
too.
lived in poverty. Now, the question comes to this: can you be a communist and not be an atheist? Well, I would say, if you're a Marxist and understand the Marxist philosophical outlook, the conclusion of the thinking is clearly that there isn't a spirit world. But you can be a worker that believes in communism, i.e. believes in a world where the wealth that's produced by working people is used collectively for the good of the whole of society.
So you can be a communist and not be an atheist.
You want to fight this society that's based on privilege, on the use of wealth.
He's saying you don't have to be an atheist.
To strengthen the position of the wealthy and oppress the masses. You want to fight for a better world, but you still have your religious views. We, as Marxists, as revolutionary communists would say, if a communist who has religious views and a communist that doesn't agree on the actual program we want to carry out, if they agree that the fight is to expropriate that tiny minority of capitalists, nationalize the means of production, place them under workers' control and management, and run society in a communist way, if we agree on that and we're prepared to fight together, I have no problem with a communist that says, I have these beliefs as well.
You do not have to be an atheist to be a communist. We know this because I've personally heard communists talking about being religious. I've been in the room with them when they've been talking about being religious. Emmy O'Brien, who's one of our favorite queer anarcho-communists, is a Buddhist. Not quite the same thing as like Christian, but like whatever. What he's saying is, as long as we're aligned on our goals and you want to work with us to create this world and you're on board with our material like goals in this world, we don't care if you believe in God. What he's saying is that you can believe whatever you want as long as we're aligned with our goals for what we're trying to accomplish as a collective. Does that make sense to everyone? No, he didn't say that. No. He didn't say that. Stop making shit up, please. I'm going to break every one of this bad habit that people have. Stop making shit up. I didn't hear that. I did not hear that. I did not hear that. No. That's not what he said. That's not what he... Guys! Stop making shit up. Deal with what's right in front of you. What he is saying is, we are materialists. We want to accomplish certain things in the world. We have ideas about the way that society should be structured. If you agree with those ideas, then we don't give a flying flip if you're an atheist or if you believe in God or if you're a Buddhist or if you're doing something else. We don't care. As long as the material conditions of the world we agree on that, then you can worship however you want. That's what he's saying. Yes, he is saying that Catholics can be communists. Yes, he is. Yeah. Yeah.
I respect that. Let's fight to change this world. The next world we can always discuss under a future communist society, and we'll see where society goes on that.
Or I guess when we're both dead, maybe we'll get to discuss it then.
Well,
if they're right.
Yeah, well, people have different opinions on what you can do after.
But look, I think that we also need to draw a bit of a distinction here because we're Marxists, right? Marxism is a school of ideas, and it bases itself on the philosophical method of dialectical materialism. It's a materialist philosophy. It's an atheist philosophy, explicitly so. But communists have come from all different traditions in the course of history. We've said on this show that the early Christians, in the period where they were basically an oppressed radical Jewish sect, were communist.
Yeah, Rottweiler in with the super chat. The USSR never banned the Orthodox Church, never banned religion, full stop. If anything, commies are pragmatic materialists, but not 100% atheistic. Exactly.
Yes.
They were, of course, religious. They were deeply religious.
Green-eyed lady, I heard that while I was gone, you were kind of causing some shit in my chat by doing, I'm really starting, I'm going to be very, very blunt with you. I'm really starting to believe you're a troll and you're just here to be disruptive and annoying. And I got some bad feedback on you from the mods in my chat over what happened while I was away, and I wasn't happy about it. And this, to me, is another example of I don't think this is a genuine question from you. I think you're doing this to be trolly and disruptive and annoying. And I'm going to tell you that that shit's going to stop. You are like this close from getting permanently banned in my chat because you're annoying me, you're annoying the mods in my chat when you do shit like this. Because I think you already know the answer, and I think you're just being a smartass. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you can prove that I'm wrong through your behaviors. And if you prove that I'm wrong through your behaviors, and you stop being annoying, and you stop asking the same question a million times, and you stop asking questions that you damn well fucking know the answer to, just to be a pain in the ass, then I will say I'm wrong. But this shit is going to stop.
And they framed their communistic tendencies and their belief in liberation from Roman oppression in religious terms.
Well, the early Christians, if you joined them, you had to give over all your property.
Right, exactly.
You had to renounce your property, actually.
Yeah.
In the Acts of the Apostles, there are moments where you see one. There's a famous one: the husband and wife who join and don't give all their property.
Yeah.
And they're called to answer why. And actually, God strikes them dead in that moment. Why? Because they didn't renounce all their property. It's a rather curious one. A lot of people who claim to be Christian today and will not appreciate the communists, let's say, probably don't get that highlighted in their religious studies.
No.
That the God of the early Christians would strike dead a husband and the wife because they didn't give up all their property. That is the confirmation that the early Christians were actually revolutionaries against the slave-holding system.
And they can't even entirely hide behind the New Testament, because Jesus also said that it was easier for a camel to pass through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter heaven.
That's right.
He overturned the tables of the moneylenders at the temple.
It's all there. But can I just add something else about religion? You see, religion has changed over time. Religious views have changed. Now, Christianity, Islam, Judaism have been around for a few thousand years. Christianity, 2000, Islam a little bit later, 1500 years or so. Judaism claims to go back 1,000 years maybe before Christ. At the very most, we're talking about 3,000 years. Now, it's been shown by all the evidence, the archaeological, the genetic, that Homo sapiens has been around for probably around 300,000 years as a species.
Yeah.
That means that for 1% of humanity's existence, it has had one of these three major religions. Then there's Hinduism, there's Buddhism, but we're talking about this kind of period in which these religious views have existed. The further back you go, the greater the difference in religious views. You go right back to the time when people would pray to the animal they'd killed and ask its spirit to return. Or they believed that trees had a soul, mountains could think, you had to feed the mountain, etc. The further back you go, the greater differences you see, and you see an evolution. So my view is this: if the religion is a truth, surely it should have been true for humans from day one. Instead, for a very long period of time, the religion reflected the structure of the society. As society changed, for example, from the polytheistic religions where you had many gods, as you have the rise of the state with one leader, the emperor, the king, etc., the religions also started to change accordingly and in their structure. So people who adhere to religion will see it as their truth. We as Marxists would look at it a little bit more objectively from a long view of history and see that it's a reflection of a way of thinking of a particular moment in their development. And just as religion and the attitudes of humans to religion has changed as society has changed, changing society again in the future will inevitably impact the way people view religion.
And we can go into that in more detail maybe in another episode. Basically, to summarize, Marxism is an atheist philosophy. It's an atheist school of thought. But of course, there are millions of working people who are religious, who might well agree with communist ideas, who might share our perspective. And absolutely, we have an open hand to all people of all beliefs and persuasions if they agree with the struggle to overthrow capitalism and win a better existence for the majority of people in this life. In that sense, of course, you can be a communist and hold religious views.
Is that clear to everyone, okay? Is that clear to everyone? These are very strict Marxist-Leninists. Marxism is a philosophy that is an atheistic philosophy. However, you do not have to be an atheist or like a strict Marxist in order to be a communist. You can be a communist as long as you agree with overthrowing capitalism. And you can still have your religious views, and as long as your religious views don't get in the way of overthrowing capitalism, they don't give a flying flip what you believe. They don't give a flying flip if you practice your religion. They don't give a flying flip. Like, yeah, he literally said you can be a communist and hold religious views. It's just like they might not consider you a Marxist, but will they still work with you? Will they welcome you? Will they be nice to you? Yeah, they don't care. They really don't care. And this is what I've said. I've met communists who are religious. I've met communists who are Christian. They don't care. They really don't. All right, guys. I think we might cut it there. Let me see. What do we have? Communist nationalists. Let's do shit. No, we can go a little bit more. We do have to wrap up the stream before the next stream at 7:30, but we can go a little bit more.
Let's work together to change this world.
Yeah.
Whatever your view is on that question.
Nicely put. All right. Well, I think we'll move on. It's another good one. Are communists nationalists?
Well,
before we go any further, we should say that Fred is of Italian heritage, so he brings a slightly different national perspective than I do as a
Welsh.
as a Welshman.
I'm also partially Welsh.
Hey,
I was born in Wales.
Jaxie, listen, like I said, I learned this stuff live on the internet. A lot of my audience learned along with me. You're relatively new, girl. You're showing, or girl, guy. I don't know if you're a girl or a guy. You're relatively new, bro. And so, yeah, you have a lot to learn, but we've all been through the process of learning, so we appreciate you being here.
Nationalism and communism. You see, the slogan at the end of the Communist Manifesto is "Workers of the world unite." Marx pointed out that workers have no nation. And if you think about migration, well, the United States itself as a country is the product of the fact that many workers from many countries around the world, initially starting in Europe, but then spreading elsewhere, the nation that they belonged to or the country they lived in had nothing to offer them in terms of work, income, or even the prospect of some kind of improvement in their lives. So they went where the work was. In effect, workers go where the work is. And if that means you leave your country, you leave it. Millions went across the United States. Millions of initially English people, followed by the Germans, the Scandinavians, then the Italians, and many other peoples, the East Europeans, the Irish, the Russians, and then more recently, obviously, from Asia, from Africa, the Latinos, from Latin America. That is a proof of the fact that the real nation of the working people is where the work is, where you can get your wages. Now, the other side of it is this. The capitalist system is a global system. No single capitalist country can function within the border.
Remember I told you that one of the reasons they said that real communism hasn't been tried is because communism can only work as a global system. He's about to say that.
Of its own countries, of the country. You know, the criticism, to go back to the discussion before, socialism in one country is not possible. But people forget that capitalism in one country is not possible either.
Right.
America, for instance, requires a world market to exist. China requires a world market because
they don't think China's
the
communist.
tendency under capitalism is to
they think China's capitalist,
to produce more than your local market can absorb. And the only way that you can exist and function is by exporting a part of what you produce. That's one side of it. The other is no single country has all the resources that are required for a modern economy. You know, the earth didn't evolve in such a way as to make sure that in every future nation that emerged, there would be enough iron, enough silver, enough lead, enough this, that, and the other, that each country could function almost in autarky. No, the world is made the way it is. The minerals are spread around where they are. The resources are where they are. Therefore, the only way one country can function as a capitalist country is by trading with others, getting the raw materials they require, and then exporting the final products.
Or stealing from others.
Or stealing, yes, of course, the imperialists, etc. But even that is a proof that capitalism in England could not survive within the borders of England or Britain, or the United Kingdom, whatever you want to call it. The way it could survive, the only way it could survive was through imperialism, going out and basically dominating and literally stealing the raw materials from the peoples that were living in Africa, Asia, and elsewhere.
Go to the British Museum, and I mean, materials aside, in terms of the artistic and cultural accomplishments of these places, you can find quite a lot of them locked away in the vaults.
The whole point that they're trying to say is that communism only works if they do it globally.
Museums here in Britain.
But going back to the question, are communist nationalists? No. The answer to the immediate short answer is no. But there's always a but. It's no. If nationalism to me means I have to identify with my ruling class because I speak the same language. You know, I speak English, therefore I should identify with King Charles.
Yes, or when you speak Italian, you should identify with Giorgio Meloni.
Yeah, exactly. That's not how we would view it. If nationalism means that what comes first is the nation you belong to, i.e., I'm working class, you're middle class, he's a bourgeois, a capitalist. Because we all were born in one country, we speak the language, and we're citizens of that country, we have a stronger common interest because of that. We would argue no. I, as a worker, have more in common with the workers of other countries than with my own boss, my own ruling class. And the truth is this. The ruling classes, the capitalists of individual countries, have more in common with their capitalist friends in other countries. The fact that we live in the epoch of multinational corporations that operate beyond the national borders, and these corporations have an interest which is against the workers of all the individual countries. Therefore, the solution to fighting this is not a nationalist one. It cannot be that, although there are attempts to do it. Trump, make America great again. Farage talks about Britain, etc. Meloni will talk about Italy and as a nation, as if we can solve the problems of, say, the unemployed of each country by uniting with the bosses. The bosses are actually the cause of the problems. So in that sense, no, we're not nationalists. We're internationalists. We believe that it's the coming together of workers of different countries that can solve the problems. Having said that, you see, what I find often is the way they try to portray communists and left-wing people is they hate the country they live in. They hate their own country.
If you hate Britain so much, then why didn't you just go to Cuba
somewhere else,
or go to Vietnam?
But that's not true, you see. We don't hate the country we live in. Actually, we love the countries that we live in.
Yeah.
It's precisely because we love them.
All right. We're going to have to cut it there. No, wrong, incorrect. We don't do this conservative bullshit shit posting here. If you're here, you're because you seriously want to learn, not because you want to shit post like an unhinged fucking retard, okay? Guys, we do have to cut the stream a little bit short because we have another stream we're doing. And we'll go back and watch the rest of this. We can even watch the rest of it at the end of the stream that we're about to do. But we are actually going to be switching gears. I'm going to have to stop this stream. We're going to be starting another stream on YouTube, Rumble, and X. So if you're watching on any of those platforms, we're going to be restarting. Everyone gets a bathroom break. Everyone can go get a snack. But we are going to be doing a live socialism journey with a live presentation about parenting towards abolition, which means socialist parenting. And it's starting live on Haymarket Books' YouTube channel in about 15 minutes. And so we got to get over there. And so I got to end this stream. I got to set up the other stream. I got to start the other stream. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you're going to have to go to the new stream on the channel. I have not set it up on Rumble yet. I have to end this stream before I do it. So we are going to be going in their chat. We are going to be asking them questions politely and cordially, of course. But thank you guys for coming out to this stream. Please stick around for the double feature. I'm going to be ending this one, and we're going to be starting the next one. And I'll see you guys soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.